Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. Welcome to another enlightening discussion, one that delves deep into a significant yet often misunderstood chapter of our history, the Sunni-Shia divide. This topic has shaped the Muslim world in profound ways and continues to influence our communities today. However, much of what we hear about it is shrouded in bias, misinformation, or political agendas. What if we could peel back the layers of history and uncover the truths that are rarely told? The purpose of this discussion isn't to spark division, but to foster understanding. As Muslims, our strength lies in unity, and unity begins with knowledge. By learning about this complex history, we can better appreciate the challenges faced by our ancestors and the lessons they've left us. We'll explore the roots of this divide, tracing its origins to the earliest days of Islam, and examine how events from that time have echoed throughout history. Let's embark on this journey with open minds and hearts, seeking to build bridges rather than walls. The Sunni-Shia divide traces back to one of the most critical moments in Islamic history, the passing of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. His departure left the young and rapidly growing Muslim community in a state of uncertainty. The Prophet, peace be upon him, had been the central figure, uniting the hearts and guiding the path of the Ummah. With his death, the question arose, who would lead the community in his absence? For many, the immediate answer seemed clear. Leadership should continue in a manner consistent with the principles of Islam, prioritizing piety, wisdom, and the ability to guide the Ummah. A group of the Prophet's closest companions gathered at Saqifa, a meeting place in Medina, to decide on this matter. After much discussion, they agreed to appoint Abu Bakr, alayhi salam, one of the Prophet's most trusted companions and a man known for his deep faith and wisdom, as the first caliph of Islam. Abu Bakr's leadership was rooted in the concept of shura, consultation, emphasizing collective decision-making within the community. However, not everyone agreed with this process. A significant group of Muslims held the view that the Prophet, peace be upon him, had during his lifetime indicated that Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salam, his cousin and son-in-law, was his rightful successor. Their belief was rooted in moments such as the event of Ghadir Khum, where the Prophet, peace be upon him, is reported to have said, "For whomever I am his Mawla, Ali is also his Mawla." This group believed that Ali's, alayhi salam, close familial ties to the Prophet, peace be upon him, his unparalleled knowledge of Islam, and his steadfast commitment to justice made him the natural and divinely chosen leader of the Muslim community. The disagreement wasn't about the fundamentals of faith, but rather the mechanism of leadership. One group emphasized the importance of communal consultation, while the other emphasized divine appointment and familial connection to the Prophet, peace be upon him. Initially, this was a political difference, not a theological one. Ali, alayhi salam, himself pledged allegiance to Abu Bakr, alayhi salam, after some time, demonstrating his commitment to the unity of the Muslim community despite personal grievances. Yet, beneath this surface-level reconciliation, tensions lingered. These tensions weren't driven by personal animosities, but by differing visions for the future of the Muslim Ummah. Some viewed the leadership as a matter of practicality, who could best govern and maintain stability. Others saw it as a matter of spiritual continuity, believing that the leader should be divinely chosen to ensure the purity of Islamic teachings. The differences in opinion were further complicated by the cultural and tribal dynamics of the time. Arabia was still emerging from centuries of tribal rivalries, and the leadership question inadvertently revived some of these underlying tensions. While the early caliphs worked tirelessly to unite the Ummah, these fractures, though small, began to grow. This period of history shows us how a community can experience profound challenges in the face of leadership transitions. It wasn't about right or wrong, but rather different interpretations of what was best for the future of Islam. These initial disagreements would later evolve into more defined sectarian identities, but at their core, they were a testament to the human struggle to balance unity, justice, and governance. As we delve deeper into this history, it's important to approach it with empathy and an understanding of the context in which these events unfolded. These were extraordinary times, and the individuals involved were among the greatest of our ummah, striving to uphold the principles of Islam in the face of unprecedented challenges. May Allah be pleased with them all. Despite the initial reconciliation and the shared commitment to the unity of the ummah, the seeds of division began to take root, primarily due to the unfolding events in the decades that followed. These events were not born out of theological rifts, but were shaped by political conflicts, social dynamics, and a growing sense of identity among those who supported different visions of leadership. After the passing of Abu Bakr, alayhi salam, Umar ibn al-Khattab, alayhi salam, became the second caliph, and later, Uthman ibn Affan, alayhi salam, assumed the role. Each of these caliphs faced their own set of challenges, governing an expanding Muslim empire that stretched far beyond the Arabian Peninsula. As the community grew, so did the complexities of leadership. Tribal loyalties, cultural differences, and economic disparities became more pronounced. Uthman's alayhi salam caliphate, in particular, became a focal point of contention. While his leadership was marked by significant achievements, such as the standardization of the Quran, it was also a time of growing dissent. Accusations of nepotism and dissatisfaction with certain administrative decisions led to unrest in various regions of the empire. Tragically, this unrest culminated in the assassination of Uthman, alayhi salam, an event that sent shockwaves through the Muslim world and marked the beginning of a period of turmoil known as the fitna, trial, or civil strife. Following Uthman's death, Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salam, was chosen as the fourth caliph. For many who had long believed in Ali's, alayhi salam, right to leadership, this was a moment of vindication. However, his caliphate was fraught with challenges from the start. Some groups, still angered by Uthman's, alayhi salam, assassination, demanded justice before pledging their allegiance to Ali, alayhi salam. This included figures like Aisha, alayhi salam, Talha, alayhi salam, and Zubair, alayhi salam, who initially opposed Ali, alayhi salam, leading to the Battle of the Camel, one of the first major conflicts between Muslims. Even more consequential was the conflict with Muawiyah, alayhi salam, the governor of Syria and a relative of Uthman, alayhi salam. Muawiyah, alayhi salam, refused to recognize Ali's, alayhi salam, caliphate until those responsible for Uthman's death were brought to justice. This led to the Battle of Siffin, a prolonged and inconclusive confrontation. To avoid further bloodshed, the two sides agreed to arbitration, a decision that deeply divided Ali's, alayhi salam, supporters, as some viewed it as a betrayal of his claim to rightful leadership. This internal dissent gave rise to a splinter group known as the Khawarij, who opposed both Ali, alayhi salam, and Muawiyah, alayhi salam, and became infamous for their extreme interpretations of Islam. Eventually, Ali, alayhi salam, was assassinated by a member of the Khawarij, leaving the Ummah in an even more fractured state. In the aftermath, Muawiyah, alayhi salam, assumed leadership and established the Umayyad dynasty, ushering in a new era of centralized rule. For many, this marked the consolidation of power under a singular authority. However, for those who had supported Ali, alayhi salam, this transition represented a departure from what they believed to be the true principles of Islamic governance. The leadership was now viewed as a hereditary monarchy rather than a divinely guided institution, deepening the rift between those who identified as Sunnis, supporters of the caliphate, and Shias, who remained loyal to the family of the Prophet, peace be upon him. What began as a political disagreement had by this point taken on a deeper significance. The supporters of Ali, alayhi salam, who would later be known as Shias, did not simply see their stance as a matter of politics. To them, the family of the Prophet, peace be upon him, carried a spiritual authority that was divinely ordained. This belief became central to Shia theology, particularly the concept of imama, the idea that the imams, beginning with Ali, alayhi salam, were chosen by Allah to guide the ummah in both spiritual and worldly matters. On the other hand, the Sunni majority emphasized the principle of collective decision-making through shura and maintained that the leadership of the caliphs, even with its imperfections, was a legitimate continuation of the Prophet's, peace be upon him, mission. For Sunnis, the community's unity and stability were paramount, and they placed their trust in the leadership structures that emerged after the Prophet's, peace be upon him, passing. This divergence in understanding, one focusing on divinely guided imams and the other on pragmatic governance, became the defining characteristic of the Sunni-Shia divide. While the initial disagreement was confined to leadership, it eventually extended to different interpretations of Islamic jurisprudence, theology, and practices of worship. As we reflect on these historical events, it's crucial to remember that the individuals involved were striving to navigate unprecedented challenges. These were companions, family members, and leaders who sacrificed everything for the sake of Islam. The divisions we see today are often amplified by politics and external influences, but the essence of the disagreements in those early years was not born of hatred or animosity. Instead, it was a reflection of the complexities of leadership and the sincere efforts of those who wanted to protect and guide the Muslim Ummah. After the initial disagreements over leadership following the passing of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, the Muslim Ummah faced several pivotal events that transformed those early differences into lasting divisions. The Sunni-Shia split, which began as a primarily political issue, was exacerbated by a series of historical events that deepened the rift. These moments in history are essential for understanding how the divide grew and became entrenched in the collective memory of the Muslim community. One of the earliest and most significant events that widened the divide was the assassination of Uthman ibn Affan, alayhi salam, the third caliph. Uthman, alayhi salam, was a devoted companion of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and was known for his generosity and service to Islam. During his caliphate, the Muslim empire expanded rapidly, reaching new territories across North Africa, Persia, and Central Asia. However, with this expansion came new administrative challenges, including managing the economic and tribal dynamics of a rapidly growing and diverse community. Uthman's, alayhi salam, appointment of several governors from his own family, the Umayyad clan, became a point of contention. While these appointments were intended to ensure stability, some segments of the community viewed them as nepotism, creating a sense of alienation among certain tribes and regions. Dissent began to spread, fueled by political factions, tribal rivalries, and external forces seeking to destabilize the Muslim empire. This unrest culminated in a rebellion against Uthman's, alayhi salam, rule, during which protesters besieged his home in Medina. Despite calls for his removal and demands for reform, Uthman, alayhi salam, refused to step down, citing his duty to Allah and the Ummah. Tragically, the situation escalated, and Uthman, alayhi salam, was assassinated in his home by the rebels. His murder not only marked a grave injustice, but also left the Muslim community in a state of chaos and grief. The aftermath of Uthman's, alayhi salam, assassination set the stage for the next major crisis, the Caliphate of Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salam. Ali, alayhi salam, was widely respected for his knowledge, piety, and close relationship with the Prophet, peace be upon him. But his leadership was immediately contested by several influential figures. Aisha, alayhi salam, the beloved wife of the Prophet, peace be upon him, along with Talha, alayhi salam, and Zubair, alayhi salam, initially opposed Ali's, alayhi salam, rule, arguing that justice for Uthman's murder should precede any new caliphate. Their opposition led to the Battle of the Camel, a tragic conflict in which thousands of Muslims lost their lives. Although Ali's, alayhi salam, forces emerged victorious, the battle deepened divisions within the Ummah. These divisions were not only political, but also emotional and spiritual. For many, seeing revered companions and respected figures fighting one another was a source of deep anguish and confusion. The tension further escalated with the confrontation between Ali, alayhi salam, and Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, alayhi salam, the governor of Syria and a relative of Uthman, alayhi salam. Muawiyah, alayhi salam, demanded justice for Uthman's murder and refused to pledge allegiance to Ali, alayhi salam, until the perpetrators were punished. This conflict culminated in the Battle of Siffin, a grueling and inconclusive battle that led to arbitration between the two sides. The decision to engage in arbitration was controversial and deeply divisive. Some of Ali's, alayhi salam, supporters felt betrayed by the compromise, arguing that it undermined his authority as the rightful caliph. This discontent led to the emergence of the Khawarij, an extremist faction that rejected both Ali, alayhi salam, and Muawiyah, alayhi salam. The Khawarij became infamous for their rigid and uncompromising interpretation of Islam, as well as their acts of violence against Muslims they deemed unworthy of faith. The constant turmoil and conflict took a heavy toll on Ali's, alayhi salam, caliphate, and in 661 CE, he was assassinated by a member of the Khawarij while praying in the Mosque of Kufa. His death marked the end of the Rashidun Caliphate and paved the way for the establishment of the Umayyad dynasty under Muawiyah, alayhi salam. The establishment of the Umayyad dynasty was another turning point in the Sunni-Shia divide. For many who had supported Ali, alayhi salam, the transition to Umayyad rule represented a shift away from the ideals of justice and piety they associated with the Prophet's family. The Umayyad Caliphate was seen by some as a monarchy rather than a true Islamic leadership, and their policies often alienated those who remained loyal to the family of the Prophet, peace be upon him. One of the most defining events during this period was the tragedy of Karbala in 680 CE. Yazid, the son of Muawiyah, alayhi salam, and the second Umayyad Caliph demanded allegiance from Hussein ibn Ali, alayhi salam, the grandson of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Hussein, alayhi salam, refusing to pledge allegiance to what he viewed as an unjust and tyrannical rule, led a small group of his family and supporters to challenge Yazid's authority. At Karbala, Hussein, alayhi salam, and his companions were surrounded by Yazid's army. Despite being vastly outnumbered and deprived of water for days, they stood firm in their resistance. The ensuing battle was a massacre. Hussein, alayhi salam, along with many members of the Prophet's family, was brutally killed, and the survivors were taken captive. The tragedy of Karbala became a cornerstone of Shia identity, symbolizing the struggle against oppression and the unwavering commitment to justice and truth. For the Shia community, Hussein's alayhi salam sacrifice was not merely a historical event, but a spiritual lesson and a call to resist tyranny in all forms. On the Sunni side, while the tragedy of Karbala is also recognized as a dark chapter in Islamic history, it did not hold the same theological significance. Sunnis largely focused on preserving unity within the Ummah and navigating the challenges of leadership under the Umayyad and subsequent dynasties. These events, from the assassination of Uthman, alayhi salam, to the tragedy of Karbala, solidified the political and emotional divides within the Muslim community. What began as a disagreement over leadership evolved into a profound schism, with each side developing its own narratives, heroes, and grievances. These differences, though rooted in history, continue to influence the Muslim world today. May Allah grant us the wisdom to learn from these events, the compassion to bridge our divides, and the strength to work toward unity as one ummah. As the political events of early Islamic history unfolded, they began to shape theological understandings and practices within the Muslim community. Initially, the differences between Sunni and Shia were rooted in the question of leadership. But over time, these distinctions gave rise to differing interpretations of Islamic principles, jurisprudence, and spiritual authority. For the Shia, the concept of imama became central to their belief system. The imams, according to Shia doctrine, were not merely political leaders, but divinely chosen figures who possessed both spiritual and temporal authority. Beginning with Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salam, and continuing through his descendants, these imams were seen as the rightful guides of the Muslim community. They were believed to have been granted special knowledge and infallibility, allowing them to interpret the Quran and Sunnah without error. This concept underscored the Shia belief that leadership of the Ummah was a matter of divine appointment, not human selection. The Shia tradition places great emphasis on loyalty to the family of the Prophet, peace be upon him, particularly through Ali, alayhi salam, and Fatima, alayhi salam, their children Hassan, alayhi salam, and Hussein, alayhi salam, and the subsequent line of imams. This deep reverence for the Ahlul Bayt, the family of the Prophet, is reflected in their religious practices, prayers, and literature. Events like the tragedy of Karbala, where Imam Hussein, alayhi salam, sacrificed his life for justice, hold immense spiritual and moral significance. For Shias, Karbala represents the eternal struggle against tyranny and a commitment to uphold the principles of Islam, regardless of the cost. On the other hand, the Sunni tradition developed a different approach to leadership and authority. Sunni theology emphasized the concept of shura, consultation, as a means of selecting leaders. While the caliph was not seen as divinely appointed, he was regarded as a custodian of the faith and a protector of the Muslim community. His role was more administrative and political, with scholars and jurists providing spiritual and legal guidance. This distinction in leadership models influenced how the two traditions approached Islamic law and governance. Sunni Islam developed four main schools of jurisprudence: Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, and Hanbali, each emphasizing scholarly consensus, analogy, and reason in interpreting Islamic law. These schools became a cornerstone of Sunni identity, reflecting a diverse yet unified approach to understanding and practicing Islam. In contrast, Shia jurisprudence placed significant authority in the hands of the imams. Since the imams were believed to be divinely guided, their teachings and interpretations of Islamic law carried the highest weight. After the occultation of the 12th imam in Shia belief, the role of interpreting Islamic law transitioned to scholars known as mujtahids. These scholars are respected for their deep knowledge and their ability to issue legal rulings, fatwas, based on Shia traditions. The theological divide also extended to hadith literature. While both Sunnis and Shias hold the Quran as their ultimate source of guidance, they rely on different collections of hadiths. Sunni Muslims primarily draw from collections such as Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, compiled by scholars who assess the authenticity of narrations through a rigorous methodology. Shias, on the other hand, emphasize narrations transmitted through the Ahlul Bayt and their close companions, considering these sources to be the most reliable. These theological differences, while profound, coexist alongside shared beliefs. Both Sunni and Shia Muslims affirm the oneness of Allah, the prophethood of Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the sanctity of the Quran. Their prayers, fasting, charity, and pilgrimage remain grounded in the same core principles of Islam, even if certain practices differ in their details. As these theological distinctions solidified, external factors played a significant role in magnifying the divide. Political rivalries, dynastic ambitions, and interference by foreign powers created an environment where differences were often weaponized. The Sunni-Shia divide became not just a matter of faith, but also a tool for those seeking to consolidate power or weaken the Muslim Ummah. Over centuries, misconceptions and stereotypes about both Sunnis and Shias began to spread. Among some Sunnis, Shias were unfairly portrayed as deviants who prioritized loyalty to the Ahlul Bayt over the broader Muslim community. Among some Shias, Sunnis were seen as having strayed from the rightful path by neglecting the spiritual authority of the Prophet's family. These narratives, rooted in ignorance and often fueled by external agendas, created barriers to mutual understanding. A significant driver of these misconceptions has been the politicization of the Sunni-Shia divide by ruling powers. During the Abbasid and Umayyad dynasties, for example, the state often favored one sect over the other, persecuting dissenters to maintain control. In more recent history, colonial powers and modern geopolitical players have exploited these divisions to further their own agendas, dividing Muslim communities for political gain. Despite these challenges, there are countless examples throughout history of Sunnis and Shias living in harmony, united by their shared belief in Allah and His Messenger, peace be upon him. Communities have intermarried, prayed side by side, and worked together to address common challenges. These examples remind us that the differences between Sunnis and Shias, though significant, are not insurmountable. Ultimately, the Sunni-Shia divide is a reminder of the complexity of human history and the challenges of interpreting and practicing faith in a diverse world. While it is essential to acknowledge and understand these differences, it is equally important to remember the shared foundation of Islam. Muslims, whether Sunni or Shia, are united by their testimony of faith, their love for the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and their commitment to the principles of justice, mercy, and unity that lie at the heart of Islam. The history of the Sunni-Shia divide, while rooted in political and theological disagreements, carries important lessons for Muslims today. At its heart, it highlights the challenges of leadership, the consequences of misunderstandings, and the human tendency to let differences overshadow unity. However, the Quran and the Sunnah offer clear guidance on how to approach disagreements within the Ummah. By reflecting on these teachings and the lessons from history, Muslims can work toward building stronger bonds of brotherhood and mutual respect. One of the most powerful lessons from this history is the need for empathy and understanding. It's easy to view historical figures and events through the lens of modern biases, but the reality is far more complex. Those who were involved in the early conflicts of Islam were companions, family members, and devoted followers of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. They lived in a time of immense challenges, navigating unprecedented circumstances with sincerity and faith. Recognizing this context allows us to appreciate their efforts and avoid the pitfalls of judgmental attitudes that breed animosity. Another critical takeaway is the Quranic emphasis on unity. Allah commands the believers, and hold firmly to the rope of Allah altogether, and do not become divided. Surah Al-Imran 3:103. This verse reminds us that our ultimate allegiance is to Allah and His guidance. Differences in interpretation, practice, or leadership should not lead to divisions that fracture the Muslim Ummah. Instead, these differences should be approached with humility, recognizing that diversity can be a source of strength when rooted in mutual respect and a shared commitment to the core principles of Islam. The importance of dialogue cannot be overstated. Open and sincere conversations between Sunnis and Shias can help dispel misconceptions, build trust, and foster a deeper understanding of each other's perspectives. Throughout history, scholars and leaders from both traditions have engaged in meaningful discussions that highlight their shared values. In today's world, where misinformation and stereotypes are rampant, promoting such dialogue is more important than ever. The role of leadership is another lesson that emerges from this history. Leadership in Islam is not about power or dominance, but about serving the community and upholding justice. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, exemplified this servant leadership model, prioritizing the needs of the Ummah over his own. As Muslims strive to strengthen their communities, this model serves as a timeless reminder of the responsibilities that come with leadership, whether on a local or global scale. At the same time, it's crucial to address the external factors that have exacerbated the Sunni-Shia divide. From colonial powers to modern political players, many have exploited these differences to weaken the Muslim Ummah for their own gain. Recognizing these external influences, allows Muslims to focus on what unites them rather than what divides them. By prioritizing the common good and resisting divisive narratives, the Muslim community can reclaim its strength and unity. Finally, the history of the Sunni-Shia divide underscores the importance of education. Many misconceptions about both traditions arise from a lack of knowledge. By studying history with an open mind and seeking authentic sources, Muslims can develop a more nuanced understanding of their faith and its diverse expressions. Education also empowers individuals to challenge stereotypes and work toward unity, rooted in the principles of Islam. Dear brothers and sisters, as we reflect on the hidden history of the Sunni-Shia divide, it's vital to remember that this story is not just about differences, it's also about resilience, faith, and the enduring commitment of Muslims to live by the teachings of Allah and His Messenger, peace be upon him. The differences between Sunnis and Shias, though significant, do not erase the fact that we are all part of the same ummah, bound by our love for Allah, the Quran, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The challenges faced by the early Muslim community are a testament to the complexity of human life and the struggles that come with governance, interpretation, and leadership. Yet they also remind us of the importance of humility, forgiveness, and striving for unity. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "The believers in their mutual kindness, compassion, and sympathy are just like one body. When one of the limbs suffers, the whole body responds to it with wakefulness and fever." Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. Let us take this lesson to heart and work toward strengthening the bonds of brotherhood and sisterhood within the Muslim Ummah. Rather than focusing on our differences, let us celebrate our shared beliefs and work together to address the challenges of our time. As we conclude, I encourage you to seek knowledge, engage in respectful dialogue, and embody the prophetic example of love, mercy, and compassion in your daily lives. Jazakumullahu khairan for your time and attention. If this discussion has helped deepen your understanding or inspired reflection, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more meaningful content. Don't forget to click the bell icon so you never miss an update. Wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.